Hello everybody and welcome back to the Siege Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, drop your Siege related questions and topic discussions in the comments, and there's a chance I will cover them in the next video. If you've already asked a question and I haven't gotten to it, ask it again. I get a lot of comments, there's a good chance I'll miss it. So be sure to drop a like on this video if you're going to enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't already since we're trying to hit 200k, and let's get into this video. So this first one is by ghosteyes Official and they ask, I think Tachanka deserves a buff. Make his shimikas last longer and do more damage with a bigger fire spread, and he's a lot more reliable. That's my take. So yeah, to begin with, I don't think anyone is going to be fighting you on the fact that Tachanka needs a buff. He obviously got reworked all the way back in Operation Shadow Legacy, removing his mounted LMG, turning it into his primary weapon, and giving him the Shamika launcher. And since then, Tachanka has still kind of been one of the most mediocre and underwhelming defenders in the game. Despite him literally getting a better version of his old gadget plus more, he's still at the bottom of the pick rate. It doesn't matter that he has a 2-shot LMG or an SMG with an ACOG on defense, no one wants to touch this operator. Now, the reason why I think Tachanka just isn't that great is that, yeah, he has a lot of fire, and fire is a great thing at plant denial and area denial, but it feels like when Ubisoft designed this gadget, they were like, let's make the clunkiest gadget we can in the game. Like, this thing is so slow to reload, it's just not fun to use at all. And yeah, he has a huge amount of ammo on his Shamika launchers, but again, when you're so vulnerable when holding it, and the fact that it takes so long to reload, making you vulnerable once again, in a lot of situations, the attacker can simply just tank the damage from the fire and kill the Tachanka. His gadget has a good premise, but it just doesn't work as well as it should. So I say we take another look at his Shamika launcher. To begin with, just remove the reload. Just completely remove it. I don't care if it doesn't make sense. I don't care if the Shamika launcher cannot hold that much ammunition. Just remove that. It's terrible. It's one of the biggest issues with him. And if you're not going to remove it, at least make his reload speed much faster than it currently is. I also have some changes to the rounds which he shoots as well, which could require a reduction in ammunition if they do get this buff. But I think the first one could be adding a similar thing which they done to Grim, where you have the option of bouncing them once or having them explode on impact. I think that would begin to make his gadget a bit more accurate for people, and if you still want to play it the way it currently is, you have that option. But here's my proposition for what they should do to his gadget, which is why I said maybe they should lower the amount of ammunition he has, and that would be to give his gadget some form of impact grenade effect. So that would mean when you shoot the Shamika launcher and these rounds come out, when they hit an object, not only will they begin to go on fire, they will also do a small impact grenade effect, destroying that object. And if this was to coincide with the sort of options like Grim with a bounce and no bounce, if it's a no bounce option, it would impact on its first thing it hits, and if it had the bounce option, it would be on the final bounce, just the same as Grim. Now, if this were the case, you would have to significantly lower the amount he has, because that would be very strong to have that many impacts. But they wouldn't be crazy either. Like, you couldn't make a rotate hull with them. You would do a tiny bit of damage to them, but a lot of the damage would still come from the fire, but they would still be good at destroying Osa's shields, for example. Or what I think they'd be quite good at is stopping breaches. Of course, impact tracking was a thing that was widely popular in this game, then they've sort of somewhat removed it by lowering the range of impact nades. Well, with Tachanka's Shamika launcher, that means with the bounce option, you could bank it around corners, and then on that final hit, it would then explode. Meaning you could shoot it through an ace hole which is currently opening and destroy the other one, or bank it around a drone hole in attempts to stop a hard breach. There could be a lot of cool tactical things that would make Tachanka stand out as sort of a flexible impact nade defender, as well as still being this fire, area denial, and entry denial thing. I think that would just add a lot more depth to his gadget and give him more roles to play. That would mean, yes, let's bring a Tachanka. They're going to ace this wall, use the Tachanka to try and impact trick this breach. Oh, they've been running a lot of Osa and shields. We'll bring the Tachanka to slow them down and also do impact damage. Now, if this were the case, he would need, I don't know, maximum 5 bullets at most. which then does have this dilemma of how much you want to substitute the original gadget's idea of this fire, because then if we're lowering the amount of fire to compensate for this impact side, you're then sort of taken away from that side of the gadget since you're not going to have as much denial. So maybe simply just having the reload be faster is all we need for Tachanka, but I think you would definitely get much more play than you currently do just by adding an impact effect to it. It doesn't have to be crazy lethal, but just enough to destroy gadgets and be useful for impact tricking. I don't know, I think it would just give Tachanka more use, and it's sort of a role which not many operators can do on defense. We don't have a impact nade operator who can do that and a little bit more, so I think this would be nice for Tachanka personally. I'd like to see them at least try with it. This next one is by Arizona, and they ask, do you think Thermite is getting a ballistic shield? I know you've touched on it being a possibility. Do you think it will be year 9 season 3, mid-season, or later? Now, let me just take this moment to clarify something. Thermite at the year 9 reveal panel was teased officially to be getting a ballistic shield at some point in year 9. I didn't make that up. It's not just a theory by me. They teased Thermite ballistic shield officially at the year 9 panel. It's most likely going to be the ballistic shield which Fuse has with no special ability, just a bog standard shield. Now, we are in year 9 season 3. This is nowhere to be seen and they've not mentioned it once. I have a theory that this has simply been put to the sidelines and somewhat maybe even scrapped because of how strong shields are. I made a video the other day saying that I think it's time that we get a little bit of a shield nerf. I feel like I'm in a position to say that since Monty and Blitz are like 2 of my most played operators for the past year now. But I think because of how strong these shields truly are, they've just delayed Thermite shield or just maybe even outright cancelled it, because you have to remember they teased Thermite shield before the shield rework came out. We are now 3 seasons into the shield rework and a lot of people see them as overpowered. Right now probably would not be quite wise to release another very useful operator with a shield until the shields get toned down a bit. I think it'd be quite fun if Thermite and Striker got a shield, but I also agree maybe right now wouldn't be the best, because if you had a 5 stack of shields right now, it would be blatantly overpowered. I can't deny that. So I think we just have to wait for them to tone down the shields a little bit, but I think it is still something Ubisoft will be looking into, but I don't think this will happen until we get a shield nerf, sadly. But yeah, I wasn't baiting anyone when I said that it was teased. It just seems like plans may have changed due to how strong shields actually turned out to be. Now, it could come year 9 season 3 mid update, it could come in year 9 season 4. We don't know yet, and heck, maybe the reason why shields haven't been nerfed yet is because Blackbeard's year 9 season 4 rework might make him a shield up. Pure speculation, but yeah, that's currently the case with Thermite's ballistic shield. This next one is by BO110X3D, who sounds like a Star Wars droid, and they say, should the shattered glass mechanic be removed entirely? There are so many ways to deal with XYZ in the game that I don't think it's needed anymore. Doing so will also improve operators like Maestro. I think this is a really tricky question, because the shattering glass mechanic, I can't remember which year it came in though, but a few years ago, it was added because so many of these gadgets didn't really have counters, or when they did, it was such a utility dump to get them. Like Maestro, for example, I can't remember which one came first, whether it was like no cameras outside or shatter glass or gun 6, but there's so many ways to clear an evil eye now that I feel like the shattering glass is just unnecessary. There's so many hard counters. You've got Ash, Kali, Sledge, grenades, which are more frequent across the board now after their nerf. You've got gun 6. You've got the fact you can't put them outside. You've got Brava. You know, the evil eye didn't have this many counters when they added the shattering mechanics. So I think definitely for Maestro's case, I don't think the shattering mechanic should necessarily be there. Bulletproof cameras, I think fair enough. I do think evil eye should be stronger. Mirror windows, again, this was at a time when there wasn't really any other counter than popping the canister from the other side or hard breaching the wall. They then introduced the fact that you can punch it from either side, and then they also made Kali and Ash a counter. So I don't know. I feel like it may be a case-by-case basis, but I also somewhat agree with you, because the shattering glass mechanic came before a lot of the counters did, and since then it's just became another issue on top of that, why, with so many direct counters now, should Maestro also be countered by anyone with a fist? So yeah, it's definitely a valid question. I think at least right now, I think at least Maestro should be immune to it. I don't think you should be able to shatter his glass. I think we need to keep him a little bit better than just a standard bulletproof camera. But hey, you're welcome to disagree with that, but yeah, great question. This next one is by Candora, and they ask, what is your opinions on Siege Mobile, and will you play it? I've played Siege Mobile a good few times since its very first closed alpha. I've always spoke quite fondly on it. I never thought you could translate the gameplay of Rainbow Six Siege into a mobile experience. They've done it very well. The gameplay is great. Another thing which I praised were the skins. The skins look incredible, but the thing is, it's just, I don't know what they're doing with this game. It got put into a soft launch where they done battle passes, new skins, new season, they added Dokkaebi and stuff like that. Only launched it in, I think, like Mexico and Canada or something like that. I can't even remember. A very select amount of places. Then they done like 2 more seasons, still only in those countries. So if you like to collect skins, you couldn't get those skins if you were in a different country and stuff like that for when it launched to you. And then they were just like, oh yeah, we're gonna go on a hiatus, we'll be back when it's ready. And we've not heard about the game since, really. Like, it just feels like Rainbow Six Extraction all over again. We've had an early announcement, we get a little bit of a look at it, we don't hear anything for years or something like that, or just a long period of time at least. And then when we get the game, all buzz is gone because it was announced too early. People don't really care anymore, and regardless if the end product is good or not, it's kind of just missed the mark. Now, of course, I will say I think Rainbow Six Mobile has a lot more going for it than Rainbow Six Extraction does, because Rainbow Six Mobile is meant to be the mobile substitute of Rainbow Six Siege, whereas Rainbow Six Extraction was meant to coexist alongside Siege and do something different. So mobile definitely has more to stand on, but I just don't know what's happening with the game. That's really what I can reply to this. I've enjoyed what I've played. I like the skins. I think it's got a lot going for it. I just don't know what they're doing with it. We heard from it, we saw it, and it's been radio silence ever since. This one is by One Take J, and they say, do you think Grim is underrated? For the most part, no. I think a lot of people understand how good Grim is now. I think the only people I should kind of be talking to here is the people who saw Grim at launch and haven't really gave him a chance since, because if you're not really aware, when Grim came to the game, he was extremely poor. There wasn't really much reason to play him. His gadget was slow, the detonation was slow, it didn't have the bounce option it had now, so you had to face check every angle. That was one of the biggest issues with him. He didn't have the bailiff or anything. He was overall one of the most underwhelming operators ever added to this game, and he was considered one of the worst additions. But Ubisoft knew that they had a good operator in their hand, that they just had to keep tweaking him a little bit. They gave him the bailiff as a secondary to help him make holes to use his gadget through. They also made his gadget deploy much faster and last longer, which was one of the big steps in making him a great operator. And then they also reworked his gadget a bit to add the second option to then bounce it, for it to then detonate after bouncing off an initial object, which removed a lot of the risk of face checking every angle, which you had to do previously. This made Grim an absolutely amazing operator, and now in his current state, by the time of Year 9 Season 3, he's actually up there with some of the best. You'll see him get played in Pro League constantly. I remember back when I went to SI 2023, they had t-shirts of all of that year's operators. So it was Azami, Sense, Grim, and Solace. Now, I bought 2 t-shirts. One was a Sledgehammer one, because that is the trophy of the Invitational, and I thought that was quite cool. But I also bought one of these operators ones, and the one I actually went for was Grim. Now, despite Azami and Solace being at their peak, being very strong operators, Sense still being underwhelming at the time, but a lot of people still seen Grim as the worst one. Well, I bought the Grim t-shirt because, I don't know, I felt like I knew that one day Grim was going to be a great operator, so I'm like, right, he's terrible now, I'm gonna buy this t-shirt and I think he's going to be great one day. And lo and behold, I was right. He's now one of the best, and I have a fun t-shirt to have a little story behind it. But yeah, I think Grim is an amazing operator, so I just kind of wanted to address this question because I think a lot of people definitely see him as good now, but I feel like there might still be some people who have the stigma of when he first released. So here's me telling you, Grim is great, he's amazing, give him a try. And yeah, everyone, that is it for this episode of the Siege Mailbox. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. Be sure to ask your questions if you want to appear in the next one. Have an incredible rest of your day. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.